Hello, everybody. If you want to read all the story's content in full, please go to www.steveuk.blog. Thank you. Short Story 682, The Locksmith's Whisper. Intermediate. Sarah lived in a small, remote cottage near the forest. She enjoyed the silence, but tonight the silence felt heavy. A terrible storm had started just after dark. The rain lashed against the windows, and the wind sounded like a person screaming. At 8 o'clock, the power failed. The cottage fell into total darkness, except for the small, flickering light on her phone screen. Sarah tried to stay calm. She found a battery-powered lamp and placed it on the kitchen table. She was just pouring a glass of water when she heard it. Scratch, click, scrape. The sound came from the back door. It was a very small metallic sound, but in the storm's loud chaos, it felt too close. It was not the wind or the rain. It sounded like someone was trying to tamper with the lock. Sarah froze, holding her breath. She told herself it was perhaps a tree branch hitting the handle. Click, scrape, click. No, this was controlled. This was deliberate. Someone was picking the lock. Her heart began to beat very fast, making a loud drumming sound in the quiet kitchen. She carefully took her phone and moved to the sitting room. She had to call the police, but she knew the remote signal was often poor in bad weather. She went to the big front window and looked out into the pouring rain. She couldn't see anything. The trees were too dense and the darkness was complete. Suddenly, the scraping sound stopped. Silence. Then she heard it again. This time the sound was coming from the front of the house, right at the door beside her. The intruder was inside her small front garden and was working on the main lock. They had failed at the back and moved to the easiest way in. Sarah knew she only had a few seconds. She ran up the wooden stairs as quietly as she could. The stairs groaned once beneath her weight. She stopped, listening. Did they hear it? The scraping continued below her, fast and confident now. She reached the main bedroom and locked the door behind her. She pushed an old, heavy wooden dresser against the door as a barrier. It wouldn't stop a determined person, but it would slow them down. She dialed the emergency number, holding the phone close to her ear. Nothing but static. The storm had cut the line completely. Downstairs, she heard a faint, heavy thud, the front door opening. They were inside. Footsteps moved slowly, methodically, across the kitchen floor. They paused at the bottom of the stairs, then began to climb. Creak, creak, creak. They were coming. Sarah hid behind the dresser, clutching the phone like a weapon. The footsteps stopped right outside the bedroom door. Then the terrible metallic sound began again. Click, scrape, click. But this time it was louder, closer, and more personal. They were picking the final lock. She heard a voice, a low whisper right against the wood. It's all right, Sarah. I know you're alone. The dresser began to shake as they pushed against it. The lock mechanism groaned. Sarah braced herself. She was ready to fight. Just as the door began to splinter, a very loud, sharp noise cut through the house. The phone's ringtone. It was her neighbor checking on her because of the power cut. The ringer was so loud it was deafening. The pushing on the door stopped immediately. The scraping sound vanished. The footsteps quickly retreated, running back down the stairs and out the front door into the storm. Sarah didn't move for 10 minutes. The phone had stopped ringing. When she finally peered around the dresser, the lock was ruined, but the door was still closed. The noise had saved her. not the police, but the unexpected sound of a friend calling. She looked at the destroyed lock. The next day, the police found footprints in the mud, leading away from the cottage and into the deep forest. The stranger was gone, but the front door lock was taken as evidence. The police explained that lock had been carefully replaced with an older, weaker one, probably days ago. The intruder hadn't been picking her lock. They had been finishing the job on one they had already installed, a lock designed to fail exactly when they needed it to. Vocabulary notes. Remote. Adjective. Definition. Far away from other cities, towns, or people. Isolated. Example. Sarah lived in a small, remote cottage near the forest. Similar words. Synonyms. Isolated. Completely separate from others. Secluded. Hidden away from view. Private. Distant. Far off in space or time. Lash. Verb. Definition. To hit something hard and violently, often used for a wind, rain, or waves hitting a surface. Example. The rain lashed against the windows and the wind sounded like a person screaming. Similar words. Synonyms. Beat. To hit repeatedly. Pound. To hit or strike something heavily and repeatedly. Slam. To shut or hit against something forcefully. Tamper. Verb. Definition. To interfere with something in order to cause damage or make unauthorized changes, often secretly. Example. It sounded like someone was trying to tamper with the lock. Similar words. Synonyms. Meddle. To interfere in something that is not one's concern. Fiddle. Informal. To try to adjust or repair something in a casual or careless way. Tinker. To attempt to repair or improve something in a casual or desultory way. Deliberate. Adjective. Definition. Done consciously and intentionally, carefully considered or planned. Example. No, this was controlled. This was deliberate. Similar words. Synonyms. Intentional. Done on purpose. Planned. Decided beforehand. Calculated. Done with full awareness of the likely consequences. Splinter. Verb. Definition. To break into small, sharp fragments, usually referring to wood or glass. The noun form refers to the fragment itself. Example. Just as the door began to splinter, a very loud, sharp noise cut through the house. Similar words. Synonyms. Fracture. To break or cause to break, usually used for bones or hard objects. Shatter. To break suddenly and violently into many small pieces, often used for glass. Rend. To tear something into two or more pieces, often used formally for cloth or paper. Story written by Gemini AI. Image created by onemin.ai. To read all the story's content in full, please go to www.steveuk.blog. Thank you. CC Music, drifting at 432 Hz, Unicorn Heads.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're looking at Short Stories 682, The Locksmith's Whisper.
That's right.
And our mission really is to kind of unpack how it builds suspense so effectively and maybe pull out some key language along the way.
Absolutely. It starts with Sarah, right, in this cottage. And the setting itself is the first layer of tension.
How so?
Well, the source calls it remote. Isolated, far away from everything. That distance is crucial.
Okay.
Then you add the storm rolling in after dark, rain hammering the windows, and then, bam, 8 o'clock, the power cuts out. Total darkness.
Yes, that's staged perfectly.
Yeah.
And then the first real sign of trouble. that little sound.
From the back door, scratch, click, scrape.
And it's described as feeling controlled, doesn't it? Not just random noise. The source uses the word deliberate.
Exactly. Intentional, calculated, like someone is actively trying to tamper with the lock, meddling with it.
Not just an animal or the wind. Someone's there.
Right. And what's interesting is what happens next. The sound stops, the attempt fails.
But they don't leave.
No, they just move to the front door, which concerns it, really. This isn't random. They're focused. They tried the back. Now they're going for the main way in.
And that must be terrifying for Sarah, realizing they're still there, just shifting strategy.
She does the only thing she can. Runs upstairs, locks the bedroom door.
And pushes that big, heavy dresser against it. A barrier.
Yeah, but she knows, doesn't she? It's old wood. It'll only slow them down. It won't stop them.
And the isolation gets worse. She tries the phone.
Just static. The storm's knocked it out completely. No way to call for help. She's utterly cut off.
So the focus shifts, kind of inside the house now.
That faint thud. The front door's open. They're inside.
Oh, man.
And then the footsteps. Slow. Crossing the kitchen floor downstairs. A pause. Then climbing the stairs.
And then creak. Creak. The story writes it just like that, doesn't it? Really draws out the sound.
It really does. And then the scraping starts again, right outside her bedroom door. The final lock.
This is the climax, right? And the whisper.
Yeah. It's all right, Sarah. I know you're alone. So personal. So chilling.
The door splinters. The dresser's shaking. It feels like it's over.
But then the phone rings out of nowhere. Just this loud, sharp ringtone cutting through everything.
A neighbor.
Yeah.
Checking on the power cut.
Exactly. Just a mundane, everyday thing. But it breaks the spell. The pushing stops immediately.
And the intruder just bolts, runs off into the storm.
Vanishes. The immediate threat is gone. But the real kicker, the sort of aha moment for us doing this deep dive, comes later.
When police arrive.
Right. They explain something crucial. The intruder wasn't actually picking the lock on the front door that night.
What? Then how did they get in?
The lock. It had been replaced. Days earlier. Swapped out for an older, weaker one?
No way.
Yes. So the intruder wasn't breaking in. Not really. They were just finishing the job on a lock they'd already installed themselves. A lock designed to fail. Deliberately.
Wow. Okay, that changes everything. That completely reframes the entire night.
It does. It wasn't about overcoming her security in that moment. It was about activating a vulnerability they'd already put in place.
So that idea of the threat being remote isn't just physical distance, it's also temporal. The real danger was set up long before the storm even started.
Precisely. The tampering happened days ago. The final act was just the trigger.
That planned vulnerability, that's the core of it, isn't it? The most effective threats aren't always the sudden attacks. They're the ones that are carefully planned, calculated, put in place beforehand.
It really makes you think, and maybe it raises a question for you, listener, right now.
Yeah.
If the trap was set days before, if the thing designed to harm you was already installed, what other vulnerabilities in your own life might be just like that? Pre-planned, hidden, just waiting for the right moment to splinter?